Monday at 12 o'clock on the Afro Hair Science YouTube channel. What are you waiting for? Guess what? I found out who actually sings that song, and it is actually a number one hit on YouTube, and his name is Mr. Jonathan Roy, and the name of the song is Beautiful Day, and today it most certainly is a beautiful day here on the Afro Hair Science YouTube channel, and we are into our 11th episode of So You Think You Can Do Hair, and this is a wonderful, wonderful episode. It is dedicated to Miss Vaughn Smith. I dropped a link in the chat for her, or a notification in the chat, and she asked us to discuss specifically, could we talk about re-entering the world of barbering and working in the hair salon? So that's a really good topic. Now I haven't left; I'm still here, but I think Cheryl is definitely. Going to be able to really give us another angle on leaving and all the different things that you can do when you re-enter the world of barbering and beauty. There's a lot of reasons why people decide to leave. So we're going to definitely go into that, because that's probably something that doesn't get talked about, is why do people leave in the first place. So we'll talk about that before we actually offer some solutions. And if you are one of those people who are like, yeah, I left, and yeah, I don't know if I'm feeling it, I'm not quite sure, then this may help you out. Now, some people, now we're not going to try to convince y'all. If y'all don't like it, hey, you know what your mother say. Everything ain't for everybody, and that's okay. That's okay. But we're just gonna, definitely, use draw on Cheryl's experience and all the wonderful things that she's doing to be as a source of inspiration. Because I know I'm so glad to be able to work alongside her. So I'm kind of glad that she's in it in another angle. What's up, Miss Clark? Hola, hola. How you doing out there? Also, how you doing, BFF? What's up? I was waiting on you to call me back. Yeah, I was waiting on you. I was like, oh, she just ain't gonna call me back. I was like that, not Rotina. I gotta put my BFF on blast. So you said this message is for you, Miss Clark. Okay. Um, yeah, so we're going to make this very, very relatable. But before we do that, I just got a couple of images to share with you. In case you are not aware, this week is, check this out, Cheryl, National Hairstylist Appreciation Week. So there we are, Cheryl and I. We appreciate you guys, and we hope you guys appreciate us. So this is the week that to show your hairstylist some love. So be it your colorist, or your weave slayer, whatever you want to call us nowadays. Make sure you show us some love this week. We'll take a hug. It's not always about the Benjamins, contrary to popular belief, and we'll talk about that too. A little bit, because people always think if you want to get some extra money, just become a hairstylist or a barber, because you can always make some money. And I'm sure some barbers out here would be like, yeah, y'all stop reducing us to some coins, and some Benjamins. We're a little bit more, we're a lot more than the money we make. So we're going to talk about that too. And then unfortunately, look at that, Cheryl. Guacamole at the Ohio State House this Wednesday, April the 24th at 10:30 in the Grand Hearing Room. Three separate bills. Did you hear that? Un the trois. I'm sure the French should be like, stop messing up our language. Sorry, Frenchmen. I've been reading French Fanons. What is it? White mask, black skin, or is it black skin, white mask? And so I've learned about the francophone. Don't give black folk no knowledge. You know how it is. Once we learn something, then black skin, white mask. So that's by French Fanon. So I'm actually listening to the audio book. So three separate bills regarding cosmetology and barbering. Can you believe the state of Ohio? I did send this over to our homegirl in the struggle in Atlanta, the wonderful Miss Kay Cantrell, and she was like this. Girl, bye. Um, yeah, three separate bills
Jeez.
to reduce the hours of education. And this is the perfect segue into the topic. Because that's one of the reasons why people like, I'm sick of this industry. Because the challenge for us to be great is just not there. And we could kind of delve into why that is. And so, Ms. Clark, we hope you have your pencil, and Ms. Vaughn, if you're watching this, have your pencils ready. And if you're watching this post alive again, you could be like Ms. Vaughn and drop your request in the chat. And Cheryl and I would be so glad to oblige and cover a topic for cosmetology, barber students, nail techs, aesthetics, and of course, instructors and school owners. Maybe you just like, I need some help as well. Then this is the podcast for you. And by the way, this was actually recommended by a cosmetology student, which we can never forget, Miss Maria Smith, over at, she's about to finish school here in Ohio, and her wonderful instructor, Miss Polar. So thank you guys so very much for encouraging Cheryl and I to do that. So the message is for her today. And sure, Miss Clark says, let me just put it up here so you can see exactly what she's saying here. She says, this message is for me today because the struggle is real. She's struggling with figuring out how to get back currently. So that's all those last few words, figuring out how to get back currently. So sure, we're gonna make sure we focus on the figure out part, and that's now. This is not my strong area, so I'm gonna be, posing the questions here. And Cheryl, this is where she's really strong at because, like she says, she actually trains the trainer. So she's the person that people who teach this stuff, who make this stuff, who deconstruct this stuff, they go to her to try to figure out. So she knows this from both sides of the fence. People who want out, people who want in, people who want to get rid of it, and people who want to keep it. And I don't know how she finds a happy balance in all of that, but she does it so well. So Cheryl, we're going to hop right into the topic of, dang, how do I get back in? So let's start off with why do people leave in the first place? Now, I actually asked some people who are no longer in the industry. I did do that. I talked to some real people. And then I went online to see if it was going to match up. Now, we do see a lot of stuff on social media, um, why people leave, but I'm just going to kind of read off the list. Number one, drum roll, please. Brrr. The number one reason people leave the barbershop and the hair salon is the drama. Like it's just so much drama in these spaces of making people look good and feel better that they just got to get out. And so if you can relate to that, put one up for drama. Okay. Number two, the challenge to stay with the trends is very difficult. I know for me, I'm just going to admit that is a challenge of how to stay trending or learn new trends. I'm old and I just hate. I like just pull out the damn straightener, comb and cut out the style. Stick it in. So if you can relate, you're old like me, and you're just like, just sew it in. Who needs a layout? Just sew it in. Like a staff on it. So the challenge of trying to stay with the trend, Cheryl, is definitely one. Standards that we just pointed out today, they are trying to lower the standards. That was one of the reasons why I didn't even want to become a cosmetologist because the stigma is like they're just dumb people. I don't like that. So the standards is good. The future kind of goes right in tandem with the standards. Next up is no feedback because now a lot of people are working alone or maybe they're renting a chair. And how do you gauge how good or bad you're doing? Because you get partial to yourself and you start justifying some of your stuff and you don't have any feedback. So that's another reason people will leave because it's just kind of like, well, it's just me. You know what I mean? It's like, Okay. I just hear about little lonesomes. Um, and then, of course, the salon owners, the barbershop and salon owners, is that actually was probably the number two. I took them out of order, but drama was number one. Number two, the number two reason that people leave the industry is they are sick and tired of these, what one person said, excuse the expression, cosmetology students, raggedy ass. That's what they said. I was like, oh my, you got to be so. And they said, I'm just, you asked me. I was like, I did, didn't I? So they said, that's the quote. They was tired of the raggedy ass salon owner. Uh, I was like, okay. And then last but not least was they don't like the salon suites. They feel that it's a big ripoff. It's very misleading. So that definitely came in. Actually, that was number three, that people left the salon to go to a salon suite and felt like the salon suite was very just misleading with they kind of bait you in with the lower rent, and then it just kind of, and they just couldn't see they had to work another job to be able to pay the rent, and it was looking like they were balling, but they wasn't. So number one was drama. Number two, I quote, raggedy ass salon owners. Barbershops it didn't get a lot of help. I talked to one barber. He said the money, he couldn't be consistent with his income. He just had to get a job because it fluctuated too much. And then number three, that they felt that the salon suites kind of tricked them. And then they, was afraid to maybe ask to go back. I didn't even ask that question. I just kind of polled. So the chat is looking pretty good. Welcome again to our 11th episode of So You Think You Can Do Hair. This is a wonderful podcast. It's dedicated to Ms. Vaughn Smith, who asked Cheryl to kind of help with that issue. So Cheryl, I don't know where you want to begin. So those are the reasons that people leave. Okay. Here's another one, Cheryl. She came out because she started having to pull from elsewhere to pay rent. That's what they're saying in the lofts. I don't know what salon lofts offers. When I don't know if the onus just on you. I'll give my take on it when Cheryl gets to that point about the raggedy ass salon owners. I was like, don't be so mean. Don't be so honest. Uh, so, um, so can we just start from here with why people leave?
I think why is probably clear. And let me just say why I left. No, I'm not going to say that. Why I shifted. Why I shifted. Not because I left. I will say that I shifted because of being physically, not being able to physically do it. I had tendonitis in my elbow. And yeah, and just saw some body changes. And so um, I needed to shift to a more consultative, getting paid for what, just moving my mouth and not having my career being so taxing on my physical body. And so
Hmm.
that is why I shifted. I didn't leave, I shifted. Okay.
Okay, I like that word. So write that down, guys. You can shift. You don't have to leave. Okay.
Okay. And I will say that is one of the things that trade shows fail us in, or
Hmm.
other classes fail us in, because they don't talk about career paths, career adjustments, career shifts, because they think that styling is the only way you could create revenue or increase your income. They only talk about the styling part. So I just needed to shift from the physical work and going to much more of a hair coach. That's what I did. And I know I have the advantage of doing that in terms of expertise, screwing around with Mr. Morrow. But I do realize that. However, we try to expose people at the Afro Hair Science Summit to other career paths such as media, writing books, training, hair coaching, giving advice, giving consultations. And that is, I was able to garner $75 to $150 either an hour or per client that needed hair loss consultation. I didn't physically do them, but I would come to the salon and consult their hairstylist. So it did allow me to still create an income. And I know that that's a process and may not be readily available, but it can be taught. Hair coaching is very lucrative, absolutely very lucrative. Anyway,
Wow.
so
I've never heard of hair coaching.
well, you have to sometimes, let's just say in COVID, right? People
Hmm.
had to do things themselves. So they didn't know how to mix color. They didn't know how to cover their own roots. They didn't know how to do this or that or this or that. So they, because they knew I did that, they would call me. And of course, talking and thinking is not free. In fact, consultation could get actually a higher price point per client because you're not doing any, you don't have any sweat equity in it in
Mm.
any way. But if that is interesting to some people who are in their semi-retirement or they feel that they do want a career shift, that's something that we can talk about.
Mm. Yeah.
But I do realize that it's hard. I think it's harder to make the decision to leave than rather than the decision to come back.
Mm.
Because you have devoted, obviously money into your education and beauty school. But one thing about hairstylists, we don't have a lot, a grandiose student loan issue to deal with, but the clientele, maintaining the clientele, increasing it to consistently match inflation and our lifestyle, because of course our lifestyle rent goes up at home, our mortgages go up at home, and then you have to pay. So that's where that salon model of commission makes more sense than actually booth rent, because you have the booth rent and your home rent.
Mm.
Rents really don't, and it's taxing on your monthly income, which I understand. But unfortunately, we don't talk about these things, and you don't have a me or Ladosha to talk about the decision to leave versus the decision to come back, which is harder,
Mm.
because while you're in it, all you're doing is adding an income. When you totally leave, you have to start all over. And
Right.
so, hopefully, we can get you guys before you leave.
Right.
That
Right.
makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's just kind of backtrack just a little bit on the physical wear and tear. And you said you feel like the hair shows kind of don't kind of feel that's truly a void. What do you think could be done to help with the physical toll on elbows and shoulders and wrists
That
and even fingers? Like
seriously.
yeah.
And
Because
let's
that,
just
that doesn't get talked about. People ask me, well, I haven't been in it that long. I don't work from sun up to sundown. So I haven't got to that point yet.
mhm,
But we do have the anti-fatigue mats, and I'm staunch on, get up out of here. Don't work like that. But just a little bit more on the physical, toll, and then just talk a little bit more about, you said, the booth renting versus the hourly and so on and so forth. Just a little
right,
bit more on those two.
right. Well, one of the things about going back, you have to decide what part of your lifestyle you want to finance, right? Plus, you have to decide how much hours you want to devote to, because you're going back, right? And you are accustomed to having basically going to a job and then going home. You don't carry it. You're not communicating with anybody once you leave. Okay. And when I shifted, I knew I wanted to shift part time. Let's say I wanted to make $1,000 in 4 hours versus making $1,000 in 8 hours. Right. Okay. And so I knew that physically, if I shifted because I didn't want to do a lot of physical work, I knew I wanted to enter part time. So let's just say, decide with how many hours you want to devote in going in, right? Matching that up with the lifestyle that you want to fund. Let's say you want to fund and I'm just making this up.
Right.
Let's say
Uh-huh.
let's say you want to fund food, cell phone, right? Entertainment, and vacation, whatever. And that comes to $850 a month. You make sure that you quantify how many hours you want to devote and make sure that that is covered. So now you're not chasing clientele yet, but you have made a decision on paper and you know what those finances look like. You know what those numbers look like. Okay. And so making sure that you know, I only want to put in 4 hours. I only want to do 5 hours. And then you get to 6 hours, then you get to 7 hours, then you get to 8 hours, and then you're back in full swing after that. Um, so, hey, Blake, what's going on? You know what I mean, Ladosha? This
Yeah.
just and it's paperwork. You must decide how many hours you want to put in. But I will say that 4 hours, um, and two, ladies and gentlemen, styling is physical. So I decided I needed to walk. I needed to probably walk between clients, not a fast paced walk, but I needed to get my body back in shape of just doing 4 hours, just doing part time, because your limbs, and I do know that of course the trade show fails us because they do not furnish us health care. They do not even have healthcare companies or insurance companies even at trade shows. You would think that hairstylists are not people. They don't even have career paths, career coaches, and healthcare, beauty care, well-being, self-care things at a hair show. So it's just straight.
Yeah, yeah. What you do see is a lot of people talking you into. They do talk about like those wealth management where they want you to do like these investment things, but they don't. Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
it's tricky to kind of gauge and understand. I do see a lot of that. Miss Clark has something very interesting. This is a good one. One of her passions of coming out of cosmetology school was incorporating ergonomic education for stylists, barbers, massage therapists. That could be a fascinating uh,
right,
shift.
right. And here's the thing. And if you understood that you're not coming out of cosmetology, stop thinking you're coming out. Cosmetology is all of those skill sets wrapped in one. You are a
Hmm.
cosmetologist. You don't necessarily have to relearn. You're just obtaining masseuse skills. You're learning meridian points. You learn that on the scalp already. You learn how to do scalp massage and manipulations already.
Hmm.
So you're not really coming out. You are shifting.
Because that's one of the questions is figuring it out. And
Right.
so as we work through the list of why people leave,
Mhm.
we're going to really pick Show's brain on figuring the how to. So
Yeah.
you've identified how that you can stay in, that maybe you could do some hair consulting, or like Miss Clark, you want to teach on, never even heard of this before, but ergonomic education for
Absolutely.
barbers, hairstylists, massage people. You might be onto something, and maybe, like she said, maybe you could sell some medical insurance to licensed professionals. So we're going to get the whole figuring out, and those are just a few examples. So,
Right.
so some other challenges you could just talk a little bit more about. Let's talk about the standards and the lack of, the future just looks so bleak. So you have, let me just kind of show it again right quick. So here you have an introduction, three bills to say lower the standards, right? And that to a person who wants to come back in, it's like, I thought maybe I could open a cosmetology school or barber school. Maybe I could teach some, some nail or some advanced classes. But geez, Cheryl and LaDosha, the future just doesn't look so good. So the standards they're trying to lower them, and not that, to me, that makes the future look bad. So talk about those two aspects of, that's why I left, you know.
Well, it looks bad if you're going to stay and narrow your perspective to the chair. You do so many more things in cosmetology other than the chair. Okay. For example, let's just say Miss Clark. She says, "Oh, I shifted. My chair now is going to be a massage chair. It's still a chair. Now your customers are hairstylists who are going to pay you to get that kink out of their back, get that kink out of their shoulder blades, get that kink out of their neck. So now you shifted your clientele from just consumers. Now your clientele actually are professionals. Okay. And so one of the things that, if you understand that the regulations and the deregulations actually help people returning. Okay. Because
How so? How
because
now, brown cow?
because you now, the regulations that you had in your career before now are looser. That means that because you do have it, now you can shift your career and add all of those other subsequent things that you actually don't have the license for, right? That really doesn't, if you think about, if you're thinking about getting back in, you already have a license, or you have extreme experience in cosmetology, right? Okay. And that now you can become a mentor, right? And so now you have all of these, going to be a flux of students or a flux of people who are apprentices. Okay, so now you can get private classes. Okay, now you can give private experience consultation to those who don't really, and they're not going to go. If they don't have to go, they're not a requirement for them to go. Well, then you have level up to what we call master classes, right? And to some people, there's always an idea, and maybe we don't have an idea lab. Maybe we don't have a think tank in beauty in cosmetology and barbering. But what we are doing right now is think tanking and say, well, let's think about this, because the regulations have nothing to do with people who already have them.
Right.
Right. And so we don't have to catastrophize and say, oh my God, the deregulation. Because at the end of the day, there is always, and I was having this conversation this morning. You guys don't realize that you guys are taught product knowledge by people who don't have licenses. You guys realize that. You guys sit there as professionals, as attending physicians, the top of your game, and you're taught product knowledge by people who don't.
What you talking about, Willis?
Sure, just have a way of sticking it to us, don't you guys? I'm sitting here like, what you talking about, Willis?
Okay.
This is true though. Had not thought much
Yeah.
about that. But that's the part of the industry that a lot of professionals don't like. They don't like selling hair care products. They don't like selling, that they feel like the sales, like that's just too much like you're begging. Anybody know what I'm
Well,
talking
well,
about?
well, how many times have you guys got? How many times do you guys get sold?
What you mean by that?
How many times do you guys get sold something?
Oh, well, weekly, sometimes
How many
three,
that
four.
y'all get sold something daily? Y'all get sold, and then how many times do you guys let less skilled, less informed, less educated people in your salons to sell you something?
Like Beyonce sold me her sacred products that I. She's not a hairstylist, but dang that she had me sold. I was so hoping that I could do this. So we're gonna get. Don't worry, stick around. We're gonna we're gonna get to this, figure it out. So okay, but yeah,
Well, well,
that's
the well,
very
the well,
true.
well, the figuring out is the talking it out.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that part. We're just
Right,
going through the first half,
right.
just talking about the hashing it out. So why people are so sure said, well, we let people sell us stuff all the time, and we have no problem. But for some reason, if you left from
Some
behind the
reason.
chair, and like, well, I'm gonna start selling products more because I think about my transition. Like I've been doing this for 25 years. I don't want to do it much longer. I'll admit. I have no desire to do it for like ever. So I think about this myself and all the things that I do right now. So these are very good topics. So but people selling us stuff, we don't mind buying it, but for some reason we just don't think that we could actually do that in the industry from behind the chair.
Hmm. Well, and let me just say this: if you remove the chair, what would you be? If you just remove the idea of the chair, what would you be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let me write that in there. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, answer the question, Ms. Clark. And if you're in the chat, the chat's looking pretty good. Don't be afraid to answer. We're just here for you guys. Not, so if you remove the chair, right, sure, what would you call yourself?
Would you still be a master barber? Would you still be a master cosmetologist? Would you be a master colorist? You're not the chair. So if you would just remove the chair in terms of what you do every day, what if someone came into the salon and wanted to go into your office? You have an office, Ladosha. Okay, so you're what if you just shifted that and you have a chair, right? You have a station, you have a chair, and you shifted your clientele to your office. That means that now you're sitting down and you're talking to them, and you said, I will make up you a home regimen, and I will make sure that you leave with your shampoo, your conditioner, whatever the case may be. I need you to go buy this, I need you to go buy that, and you just consulted them. Okay, now um, um, cash at me $75 for this whole session. Thank you very much. You tell me that you're going to trade that to go plug up.
Y'all might have to see y'all later. Hey, Miss Clark, I don't know about you, but she got me thinking hard. Welcome, welcome. Sure, the chat's kind of growing. Can you show them what they need to do right now? I take it. Everybody's like what you're saying. So show them what you need to do right now to just help us change the narrative about why and how you should come back to the industry. Ready? They ready, Cheryl. Here you go, guys.
Pampa me on, pampa me on.
All right, all right, all right. Thank you so much for hitting that thumbs up button. And again, we appreciate everybody's support. You are listening to the 11th episode of So You Think You Can Do Hair, and we are talking about how to get back into that industry. And what we are learning so far is that actually a lot of us don't even have to leave. The magic word in this whole entire podcast right now is shift. And then so I'm loving the conversation. I'm learning so much as usual, which I did say at the beginning of the podcast, and I'm glad to work alongside Cheryl because I learned so much. We have another cosmetologist in the chat, and she says a salesperson. Yeah, yeah. But something about that sales Teray, people just cosmetologists and barbers just kind of like, hey, I'm just got my skills, you know what I'm saying? So that sales part seems like it's a step down from behind the chair with all the people and the popularity. You get all those compliments behind the chair, but if you become a salesperson or a consultant, somehow it doesn't look like you balling in pairs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that is just the lack of training that cosmetologists didn't get. Now, what is the number one salesperson in beauty right now? What are they called?
What is the number one salesperson in beauty called right now? Okay, chat. You guys are looking
Come
pretty
on, chat.
good.
Come on, y'all.
Come on. What's the number one person in sales called? Number one person in sales called. I don't know. Maybe an educator. Let me just say. I'm gonna
Okay, that's
drop
good.
in the chat. I'm gonna type in the chat the number one salesperson, because when you educate, you do have the tendency to be trying to sell something. Okay, Miss Clark says distributor. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, a distributor. Okay, all right. So okay, we got myself and Miss Clark. These are what we think: an educator and a distributor. Okay.
Good answers. However, they're called influencers.
Duh. Could you tell me about the house again, George? That deserves a good old fashioned bomb drop because I wasn't ready for that one. An influencer. Okay. Okay. Why influencer?
They're called brand ambassadors. Now, one thing I'm going to say, you guys are not imagining this. I do agree. That's why I say, if you dissolve the chair, what would you be? Now, let's go back to that question. If you dissolve the chair, influencers have no chair. You are not only the doctor, the physician, the advisor, the consultant, but you can't get the chair out of your mind. And so the influencers with a camera in a stupid what? Chair, no experience, they shifted and now they are brand ambassadors. My point is, you are already salespeople. You're already salespeople. You're already salespeople. You just didn't shift. And I understand not only that, didn't you shift physically, you didn't shift mentally. And so you missed the whole social media era. Okay.
Yeah.
So selling yourself first, deciding what your product and your specialty is, get completely well versed in it, and be able to communicate it, because you don't have to do it through some social media per se. You can do it through direct email marketing. You already email. So you can get you a newsletter. There's so many other things to do, but if you don't talk to, and that's why we're having the conversation today, because we don't think tank and we don't talk about career path or career shifting, because you
Right.
can shift parallel. You don't have to shift upward. You don't have to do upwardly, but you can shift parallel, because the parallel, perfect parallel, right? Oh my God, she shifted to a financial educator, starting with perfect. That's just shifting. So Miss Green is talking about not only she can stay in the industry, she can actually use the clientele of actual professionals instead of just shifting her clientele to just random people. She actually used professionals. So that is it's just about shifting, about parallel shifting. And like Ms. Clark said, I'm going to shift my chair to a massage chair and create body mechanics for beauty professionals. That sounds fabulous. It's brilliant. And it can become an ebook. You can do email marketing if you don't like social media, or just get a Facebook page. Like Damon John said, most entrepreneurs do not need a website. They need a Facebook page.
Yeah. Yeah, social media is very, very important, and that's something to think about. If you remove the chair, what would you be? And so, Teray and Miss Clark has given us some wonderful things. Miss Blake would like for you to reach out to her too after the podcast, and she has some questions for you about your dad's products. So again, we're on this 11th episode, and we're just moving right on through the topic of how can I come back? And what Cheryl has already taught us is that more than likely you're still in. You don't necessarily have to stand behind the chair and do all of the work. Not just limited to the toll it takes on your body, but just thinking expansively of what more you could do than just hair, because we should not limit ourselves to just doing hair. All right, so let's move into the last two, which is these raggedy ass salon owners and the salon suites. What about the raggedy ass salon owners? Yeah, we would be remiss, and cosmetology students this is a good one for you, because how do you spot them? How do you avoid them, get rid of them, or whatever you want to say about that? But the barbers, you're in good standings here. Um, the barbers, like I said, they tended to talk about the steady income was a challenge for them. But in general, the people that I polled about, like 15 people, guys. But the raggedy ass amount. The top three was drama. Number two, of course, was the standards. You know that the whole. And then number three was just the raggedy ass salon. So take it away.
I will admit that the barbering is an older institution, and I do believe that they have preserved a lot more of their charter in prestige in their culture. The barbering culture is, I would probably say, still about 65, still their original kind of energy. It's a even though it has become many other things as well, but it is because when you're talking about beauty culture and barber culture, beauty culture has shifted so much into it's about the different types of students. So let's just say that 30 years ago, you have had a different hairstylist going to school. Okay. And the reason why they're going into it at probably, I would say 30 years ago, you have weaving, um, changing the culture. Okay. Because at that point, beauty school was not teaching weaving. And so weaving brought in a whole nother type of student. And so some of the culture was lost. Nails became shift to the Korean market, and nails came out of the salon. So you do have a difference in culture. So there is no question about that. And it has become less professional and more of a supper club and the energy. And so if we want to change that particular culture, and to change it back to something so much more fun, but very professional, somewhere you can land your personal brand, mixing it in with the entire brand. And I'll make an example. When you talk about LaDosha, your business partner with Miss Lavina, right? And you guys have a culture in the Reverence Design team that is designed to grow careers. That is the business model that I think that we all should go back to. Those are the salons of the Vidal Sassoons, the Kim Lapine, Frederick Fakai, and Naomi Sims. It's just a different culture now. And I do think that we're probably going to go back there within the next 2 or 3, 5 years. Okay.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
and so just more professional brands. But barbering, in terms of having just a problem with client, just having the fluctuation of income. The fluctuation of income is a service problem, not
Hmm.
a clientele problem. Okay.
Okay, help us out with that. The fluctuation of service is not a
The fluctuation in income is a service problem. So let's just say this. What you're not offering that client, that client's going to leave and actually go buy or do, to make Miss Clark's point. If that guy is going to get a haircut, but he says, I'm leaving you to go get a massage, what is your problem?
You're not offering it.
Well, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is to get the income, that barber is not focusing on the additional services or the additional revenue. He thinks it's connected to an additional body being in his salon. No, it's the additional money that you're not getting out of that
Well,
person.
that's very interesting that you would say that,
Mhm.
because I remember when I first opened, right? Like, we have a no wait policy. And, to be honest, Cheryl, people did not want to come. Well, not a lot, obviously. I've been here for 25 years, but I'm just saying. I remember, and it still happens to this day, where people don't see a salon that's like, hustling and bustling, they think you're out of business. And so people actually would leave like it wasn't happening. And so I think a lot of hairstylists and barbers and nail techs, they do see the productivity, for lack of better words, of how many people you see. Because people ask me that all the time. Well, how many people are you seeing today? I'm like, I don't count how many people. I know I have a job from 9 to 5. You know what I'm saying? I don't count people, but that's a hard, mind thing, I guess, or business for a lot of people in our industry to kind of wrap their brains around, is the number of people versus the amount that you could charge per person. So kind of go into that a little bit more, and then we're going to get ready to go into the figure it out part.
Okay. What I am saying to you is, let's just say this. By the time my clientele shifted, because I did one person at a time. It's none of your business about my business model. That's first of all. We're going to stop that conversation.
Wait a minute, Torrey. Hold on, Torrey. Hold on, Torrey.
I don't discuss. Okay? You focus on getting that money ready. That's what you do. Okay? Because I'm gonna walk you over to all these fabulous things in my retail section. Because I'm gonna say to you, okay, if you not buying this, that, this, that, this, and that, you ain't in the know. Don't worry about what I'm in the know, because I know that I'm going to give you some wonderful glass of wine or something, so I can get you, with some not liquid courage, but with some liquid money. Okay, you're gonna stand there and get your hair examined, and you're gonna get this, and you're gonna get that. And you may get a free comb. My point is that I'm gonna pour it on, baby. You see what I'm saying? I'm gonna pour it on to the point where you look forward to coming, and because see, at the end of the day, you know how when people say, oh, you don't have to tip me, don't tip, there's some places that you can't tip them, right? Because it's padded in the price, right? But I will say, until we get back to the point, and we were talking about decor, we were talking about time. So my clientele shifted to the point where the husbands were coming, the boyfriends were coming. You know why the boyfriends and the husbands were coming? Because I got them in and got them out. Because I could focus on one at a time. And I do know that we have to change the beauty culture. I do realize that.
Yeah, here's Miss Blake. She was 2 steps ahead of you. Go ahead, Cheryl. That was Miss Blake.
Well, go ahead and read it.
In Bloomfield, I have been attempting to maintain the old culture and the respectability of the profession. I refuse to hire people without licenses. So that culture seems to be very, very important, not highly talked about, but the culture of the establishment is definitely key. And to talk about that fluctuation of that income. So for the barbers, listen up.
Right. And just make sure, let's say you invested $250, right? and you said, okay, go to Marshall's, go to the Goodwill, we're gonna do just go to the plant nursery, get 2 different rugs and go add something. Always, every year, guys, have a grand opening or reopening, reopening, balloons. I mean, the point here is that
I'm taking notes. Keep going.
and you will begin to understand people like parties, people like coming in. You may have a new book or just have a book club. But I will tell you that if you did not have that chair, the chair is not just for a person to sit down and get their hair done. The chair is a cycle, is a couch. The chair is a opportunity, is to get them into their Mary Kay vibe. It's for them to be sold. That is the chair is an opportunity to sell them something that they are not very comfortable. There is nothing that gives a consumer more anxiety than a beauty aisle. Because they do not know. Tell them, wait a minute, how many times do you have a personal shopper? Why can't you be a personal shopper? You know more to buy the hair shampoo and all that stuff more than they do. You don't just shift. That's all I'm asking you, to shift. And so,
Okay. So a few moments, you didn't talk about the raggedy ass salon owners. Is that worth mentioning?
It is the culture, because the raggedy ass salon owner is not the Miss Greens, or not the Miss Clarks. It is not the Ladocious. The point here is that those raggedy ass salons are people who got into the industry maybe 20 to 15 years ago, okay, went to school 10 to 12 years after you guys did, and they're only in it for the money. And let me just say this. These are raggedy ass salons. These are people who don't clean. They don't view it as a business. They're not going to pass it on to their children. They're not there for that. And you have to find a business owner who does have a salon that you can work with, you can communicate with, or you can even help them with, and be able to communicate with. And I understand that, sweat houses, they had them in Harlem, in disarray, didn't have business meetings on Monday, or whatever the case may be. But it is a culture problem. Not the fact that the people are nasty and they don't clean up. It's a culture problem. They're not from the culture that you guys are talking about, building businesses. They're not business people.
Okay.
They're a leaseholder.
Yeah. So listen, guys. You want to kind of vet where you're going to go and work, especially you're talking about returning. I encourage people when they come here to come spend like 2 to 3 days before you actually give it honest to goodness try, because sometimes how it is on the outside and how it is on the inside. I think people should be allowed to kind of just kind of wet their whistle just to see if it's something they're interested in. And believe it or not, there have been many people who have said, "Nah, I don't think I would like this place." And I'm glad that I offered that, because we do work, we do hair. And so a lot of people are really amazed at how we have to comb through lots and lots of hair. We have to be on time. We call to confirm. You have to dress accordingly. I don't make you you don't have to wear makeup, but you do have to look nice, So some people I ain't trying to do all that. So you want to, make sure that you know what you're getting into, because you want to know how to figure it out. And so we're going to kind of close it out, Cheryl, with, so what is it to figure this thing out of shifting or coming back? because some people do want to come back. Some salons don't like to hire people who are experienced because they feel like, well, they know everything. They're bad for the culture. So people who return kind of get a bad rap because people think that they're too old, they're unteachable. So how are they to figure it out? Can you give them some real hardcore? Nobody ever answers that question.
Okay. One, and the word figuring actually is a bad word. So let's just not say that. Let's say compartmentalize. Okay.
Hmm.
Don't try to figure it out.
Hmm.
Okay. Because until you have momentum on what it is that you deciding to do, at that point compartmentalize in terms of step one, step two, step three, or step one, step two, step three, step four, right? And then understand the end in mind, what it is that you want to do. But after you do just the compartmentalizing, make sure that you guys, please, you're not coming back to the chair, you're coming back into the industry. Stop thinking you're just, when you guys say go back in, you don't have to come to the chair. Come back to the industry. Okay? The industry has so much more options. Okay? It has so much more options. It's media. Okay? It's consulting. It's advisory in terms of maybe you want to be a mentor in terms of um, massaging, nails, or sales that you want to just be able to sell subscription boxes. Get your own subscription box. Tell them you don't have to go to the beauty supply anymore and make all those dumbass mistakes that you guys keep making. You guys don't know how to read goddamn labels anyway. Forget it. Okay? I'll be your personal cosmetics hair care. And then be able to create a local association. Okay, so therefore that you can actually start talking to your local. I mean, because if you think about it, there's at least 100 salons in the 25-mile radius, right?
This is true. It's very true.
All right, network. Create a beauty network in your area, okay? Or at the end of the day, be able to say, excuse me, Ms. LaDosha, sure, do y'all have, are you guys having something at Afro Hair Science Summit? Or you can call me and we can figure it out, but we don't have to figure it out in a week, and all of this. You can compartmentalize your plan, and maybe you can sit down with us and do that plan. I don't have a problem with that. But what you do want to do, one, and secondly, either decide that you're going to upskill or reskill. Okay? Did you do something that did make you money and you need to re-up your skill set, right? Or or reskill just basically means that you want to learn a new skill. Maybe you just get a training from a person. Maybe you want to get into coloring. You already are a professional. And so you can ask for classes with people who are master colorists like LaDosha. Okay. And then you can micronize out of that. You just do highlights, right? Be the highlight specialist. The point is that get back into the industry, not the chair.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm with you, Teray. Very, very powerful. It's funny you would say that because I remember when I first worked in a hair salon, like full time. I started kind of like part time. And the young lady who taught me coloring, her name was Veronica Mercadante. And all she did was highlights. She didn't even put her gloves on. She had her assistant. She would literally, like a doctor, the assistant would put the gloves on. She said how the foils had to be passed to her a certain way so that she wouldn't develop carpal tunnel. She didn't want to do all this. Those foils had to be mirror facing me. And I do that, and you had to collect. And she was just, I'm not even making
Wow.
this up. Okay. And once she checked the highlights to make sure everything was good, on with the next. No shampoo, no cut, no blow dry. Nothing could convince her. And so me, right? You guys are ready? I was the relaxer specialist. And she walked past me and she said, if you do another relaxer, I'm gonna kick your ass. I was like, she said, stop doing what people can do at home. You have been, at that time I was invited by Olive Benson, which I didn't really want to go. She said, you've been invited by Olive Benson, who you have no idea what a privilege it is to be invited by her to go and be alongside her. It is time for you to grow and change. I'm not saying don't do relaxers, but you need to broaden your horizon. And so when you talk about, compartmentalizing, I'm with you, Miss Clark. That's a good word, because we do spend a lot of time trying to figure it out, because when we're trying to figure it out, we always think that something's wrong with us. But if you take it from the approach, like you said, you're already in the industry, and just compartmentalize on what you can do, and you don't physically have to do the work behind the chair, because at some point you ain't going to be able to do it, guys.
Yeah.
Right?
And the other opportunity too, come on, children. I At the end of my career, all I did was little girls, baby. Their mothers was like, "I'll be right back." Take it, take it, take it, take it. I don't want it. To the point where, and then I just shifted. I just decided one day I want to do little girls. They were just so much more rewarding. They loved it. They would communicate. They were just so happy. And boy, their self-esteems went through the roof. Okay. And guess what? I didn't have to convince them to buy nothing. They mamas was like, I don't care, just tell me what the price is, so I will, girl. You know what I mean? And wait a minute. And one father said, you saved my marriage.
Oh,
He
wow.
said, because I'm gonna tell you right now, my little girl crying one more goddamn time, my wife was leaving the house. I'm sorry, I'm picking my daughter every day, every time. I don't want no crying. I don't want them fighting. I just can't stand it. He said, I'm looking at my little girl. She up there frightened because she got to get her hair done and blah, 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 blah. I'm not having it. And wait a minute. And I made a product for little LeBron James's little girl. He said, hey, my household is up in an uproar every time she got to get her hair done. I'm not having it. This has got to change. And so I just devoted my career to that. But I will say, get in the industry. It's so much more fabulous. It's so much more hopeful. It's a beautiful world. It's almost like Candyland. It's like Willy Wonka, y'all. It's like Candyland.
Oh, wow.
Don't focus on that chair, please, because that is where your anxiety level is. And you can't figure out anything from an anxiety level. You just can't do it.
Oh, wow.
I didn't,
We have,
I didn't,
yeah, here, let me put that back up there. I just want to type that in so you guys can get that. She says, and let me just reiterate. She says, do not focus on the chair, right? Uh,
bless you, Miss Clark. Bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you.
do not focus on the chair, because that's where the anxiety is. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And then once you begin to always get emails, you see people in the store, emails, emails,
Uh,
emails, emails. Forget social media. You can do social media too, but emails. People open up. They got their coffee with their emails. That's one of the first things they do.
Guilty. I do it too. Soraya says, thank you so much for these words. Teray says, I'm glad I caught this. This is good. My boss just dropped in the chat. She says, hello. Y'all know when my boss comes through, we always drop the L's in the chat. Cheryl, let me just say
I
that.
want to say, want to say, Miss Lavina, we need a reverence design team 2, 3, 4. The Dosha need to go travel, open them up countywide. Okay, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of hairstyles are waiting to work for you guys.
Okay, boss, you heard that though. Now everybody's like, well, don't you got a boss? My boss is my boss from when I was an outreach worker, but she's definitely look at her. She's all in the chat. We'll work on it. Okay. You also, I sent this to my daughter, and she's so thankful. Oh, thank you so much. I knew. I knew that Cheryl was gonna just knock it out the park. I just didn't know how good because I was going to do it, like the standard way of come back in and you're out. But Cheryl says you're already in it, okay? And you just have to shift and replay this live. I'm telling you, I'm going to replay it. I am at that age. I've been in it for 25 years. And you just can't physically do it. I don't have any physical ailments. I don't want to get to that point either, but I do know that in this 25th year, I do have to make some choices of what I want to do. And so you're not alone when you talk about re-entering. But like Cheryl said, you don't have to leave. You're already here. The magic word is shifting, and the verb is compartmentalized. And whatever you do not focus on the chair because the chair is where the anxiety is. That's very powerful. Here you go, Vaughn Smith. Say, hey, Vaughn, this show is dedicated to you. Any advice for stylists that if you want to just get back to behind the chair, she says, that just really wants to style the hair?
Yeah, and decide what your specialty is. You have something different and unique to offer because you're coming back. Okay, and guess what? And guess where everybody's going back to? Okay, they're all going back to the old trends. You are perfect. Okay, because you're more efficient at doing something that has already happened. Okay, you don't have to get any new skills. At the end of the day, if you get a specialty, you want to do press and curls. You want to do, if you want to get back to that old vintage and retro is back. Vintage and retro is, with blowouts and afros. Just decide what it is that you want to do. You can do, hair loss examinations. We can get, you can do that. There's so it just depends on what specialty you want to do. Don't go into a general field of practice because you haven't
Okay.
been in.
Right.
Go
Yeah.
into something specialized.
Yeah.
Because
So,
that
yeah.
means,
So,
and go
we,
ask your community. Don't just think of it in your mind. Go ask. Go to church.
yeah, like I asked these questions. I didn't just go online and ask those, get the advice. I actually asked the hairstylists who I knew who had left, and those were the things that they said: drama, the challenge, the standards, the no future. They're not getting any feedback. They don't like the salon lofts and the raggedy ass salon owners. She said she just moved to a city with no clients. And so that is definitely scary. But like Cheryl said, don't focus on the chair. Miss Vaughn, don't focus on the chair. Find your expertise. She gave you some wonderful words. You can go retro. You can use the word retro. You can use the word vintage. Also, go and visit those hair salons that you might be interested in working at, and watch out for booth renting and those salon lofts because like she said, the income, you got to be raking in some dough consistently because remember, you're signed into a lease when you rent the loft. The chair rentals could be a little bit different, but I know the salon lofts is a bigger commitment. So don't do that. Find a salon, do some vetting, check out those reviews, sit down, have a meeting with the owner, and then just see, where your expertise can fit into that environment. I don't know what city you're in, but let us know. I'm sorry, Mr. Vaughn. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. So Mr. Vaughn, he just moved to another city. Okay, here you go. He see French rolls with the
Oh,
waves. Come on, come on,
let
come
me, let
on.
me- let me say this,
That's Miss Torre.
Mr. Vaughn. You moved to a new city with potential clients, not no clients. They all over the place. They're waiting for you. You just got to figure out what you want to offer them, what you're willing to do, set your time, what you're willing to give them. And I know that Von Smith sounds like one of those names that sounds like
Ooh, I was thinking the same.
Von Smith is fabulous.
Fabulous.
You did not go to a new city with, stop saying that. Okay. A professor is a person who speaks what they want when they speak it. Not no clients, potential clients. And I didn't read Miss Frida, but do you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Vaughn? Come on now. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. She said, please make this a part 2 as well. Okay. I don't know how we can make that a part 2. If Cheryl thinks this is something she can expand upon.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, all right. So what we're going to do
We'll probably present the career path.
All right. So next week, all right, Mr. Vaughn, come back. Mr. Vaughn, Miss Frida, Teray, Miss Clark, Belu, Zaraya, Lavina. Oh, the chat. I knew the chat. I'm just like, you guys just always touch my heart. We're going to do part 2, and we're going to talk about the career path. So, Mr. Vaughn, this one you're going to love. I implore you guys, please replay this live. Like I said, I've got some things to figure out myself, but I've got some wonderful ideas. I was kind of like you, Miss Clark. I said, gee, I've got all this stuff, but it's like, how am I going to be trying to tell somebody when, here she says, she told so many women in school how the possibilities are pretty much endless with their license. Yet I'm stuck with my business model. It almost feels like a kaleidoscope in my brain. Hey, I can relate to Miss Clark. I can literally relate. So, Frida, thank you so much for recommending a part 2. And Cheryl says we're going to do the career path. So, as we close this,
and I'll add, I'm going to write a note to make myself Miss Clark, because
Mr. Clark,
Mr. Clark, I will make sure that
I'm sorry, wrong one. Miss Clark. Sorry, don't listen.
Miss Clark, Mr. Vaughn. Okay. And then what we'll do is, and we'll discuss and pick your business model apart. I guarantee you will see clarity, and you will be able to understand, because of course, when you don't think in terms of business model, it's very hard to compartmentalize and then be able to, because the figuring is going to be so obvious at that point. Okay. And Mr. Vaughn, what city? I may know somebody in that city. So if you don't tell me, if you don't share it with Ladosh, I travel a lot, but let us, help you.
All right. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Clark, we're going to give you the one-on-one. Teray says,
Clark.
pick the Miss Clark. And he says, yes, ma'am, I understand. Vaughn, I don't know who you are, but that name is say more money, boom, boom.
Oh, yeah. I can see that on a T-shirt.
I see a signature all over the place. Von Smith, hair by Von Smith. Smile by Von Smith. Confidence by Von. Because Von, I don't know you, bro, but I'm down by VON. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to be back at 12:30 next week with part 2. And Cheryl is going to, says, affectionately call this one a clear path to your career. Okay. So he's located in close to Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay. All right. Okay. So Mr. Vaughn, As Ice Cube would say, we got you faded, okay? All right, guys, we will be back next week at 12:30 with part 2 about a clear path to your career in barbering and cosmetology. This has been absolutely phenomenal, which I knew it would be. You can join us back this evening at 6 o'clock as we talk about synthetic hair versus what? Real hair. It's going to be real deep. So join the chat this evening at 6 o'clock, and then we'll be back here Thursday on Planet Pluto Pseudo with none other than the natural hairstylist, Miss Kristen Smith is going to be our guest. And so she's going to talk about her experience with the Afro Hair Summit and also working in a salon, specializing in what you guys call natural hair. And you're just getting all the love in the chat, Cheryl. So thank you so much. Cheryl, any closing words for us?
Well, I want to say has been enjoyable, but I want us to be able to talk about having consummate careers and removing the chair in terms of it being a limited plateau, and get back into the industry like we said, and make sure that we are what? Originally Beauty by Von Smith.
Vaughn, you're loved here. Mr. Vaughn, like, I don't know what I just stumbled upon, but I love it.
Right. And to make sure that, in the words of our foremothers, that will be very happy that we talked about this today, but in the foremothers and the progenitors and the creators, our mothers, the Beauty Culturist League started in 1919, maybe 1913. We are beauty culturists. That is the gamut. That is the 360. And let's talk about ourselves in that picture and not the circle around our chairs. And I think, and I'm looking forward to it. Let's do it, guys.
All right. Okay. So we'll be back. And as my mother would say in closing, guys, good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. And again, you guys have been absolutely phenomenal. And Cheryl and I will be back on this podcast at 6 o'clock this evening. And again, we're going to be talking about synthetic hair versus real hair. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. And Cheryl, you're the bomb.com. There's no other way to say it.
Love you guys.
I love you so much. All right, guys. Have a great day. So, you think you can do hair? Then join us every Monday at 12 o'clock on the Afro Hair Science YouTube channel.
Tell me what you